All right, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Penguins Pointers. This is the 8th edition, and this is the first edition where Daniel Geis will be making his appearance. Dan, say hi.
Hello, one and all.
Alrighty, we are going to look at first the recap from the Penguins game last night, where they were victorious by the score of 5-2. Dan, what did you like about last night's game?
I liked a lot about what I saw last night. It was good to see the Penguins finally get that offense going, and Malkin and Kessel with 2 goals each. It was a nice win after what felt like a long week of the Penguins struggling to get a win. Period. So.
No, the week it felt like a month, didn't it?
Yeah.
5-5 losing streak felt like a month, but
Very rough.
Shots last night, the Penguins had 35 to the Jackets, 24. That's part of Sullivan's idea of getting more shots on net. We've had 30-plus in the last couple games, even though we've lost. I like the fact that he likes putting those shots in during the game. So, as for hits, the Jackets out-hit the Penguins, but the Jackets are honestly kind of turning into the Philadelphia Flyers. Dan, what do you think about that?
It's to be expected when you have a coach like John Tortorella likes to run his mouth and say that the Penguins are whiners when it ain't true. He's the biggest whiner out of them all, so I think his mindset and the strategy that he's implementing upon the Columbus Blue Jackets is what we're seeing and how they're playing on the ice, and I hope they remain at the bottom of the standings.
But looking on the stats here, Penguins did hold the victory in the faceoff department, probably part of the reason why they were able to win last night. The power play also struck a little bit, went 2 for 4 as the penalty kill blanked the Jackets 0-3. But it was finally just to see, as we're going to transition to the thoughts here, it was finally to see that losing streak come to an end, Dan. 5 games, just like I said, that felt like a month. The games dragged on. Every night we knew we were going to lose the game. It was just so hard to sit there and watch these games, especially that Carolina game was just...
That probably was
hard.
the worst because Boston was an okay team. They're not as great as they've been the past couple of years. But losing to Carolina, a team that you expect to beat, we saw this toward the tail end of last season when the Penguins couldn't beat Columbus, they couldn't beat the Flyers, teams that were expected to beat that are worse than us, and they, it seemed like a repeat of what we were seeing last year. So
right, it felt like the wheels were coming off in the last couple of weeks.
It's like, when is this going to stop, and when's enough going to be enough? And obviously enough was on Monday night.
Right, and it's a great way to end that break, as everybody knows there will be a holiday break where the NHL basically doesn't have any games to respect the holiday season, where most teams will be picking up on Saturday. So the Penguins will get 4 days off to recover from some injuries, with Crosby being out, Fleury still out of the lineup, Letang out as well. Maybe if Malkin got any type of injury, he'll have a couple days rest on his leg. So it's good to see that they get a win to get that off their shoulders going into the break. But one of the big contributions last night was that power play had gone at least 0 for 15 in their last couple tries, and
one
finally
of the worst
getting
in the league.
Yeah, ranked 28th
Yep.
as of last night. I'm sure those stats updated a little bit. Maybe we're 27th now. Woo! But
it's just unbelievable with the amount of talent.
Exactly,
that we have.
with the talent we have, it's just It was so sad to think that last season, at the beginning of the season, we were converting at 40%.
Do you think teams figured it out, though, eventually? I mean, they had to.
I think they figured out some of the systems, and I think the Penguins were just stuck in their ways and didn't change them. And I think now that Sullivan's taken over the reins, he's putting some changes. I still, as much as the coaching change was necessary, I said this in the last blog, I don't like the fact that the Penguins have this idea of a revolving coaching door, because it clearly doesn't work, because teams that usually win championships have had coaches for a while.
Chicago.
Look at Chicago. Look at
LA.
Yeah, look at LA. Look at other sports. Look at the Steelers. How many coaches have they had? 3. How many Super Bowls they have? 6.
But if you look at all other sports, hockey is the one where coaching changes happen, I think, the most often. You have to agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
I
just don't think that, and 22 coaches, really? I think that's just a little on the high side. And look where, excluding Johnson, but look where Bilesma and especially Michel Therrien have ended up. Bilesma's in Buffalo, where he's rebuilding a Buffalo Sabre team where
I think they can be good.
If you look at the stats, they're actually 2 points behind the Penguins. Just so everybody knows. It's, Dan Bilesma give him some credit. He is a good coach.
I think that's a good fit for him. He is a good coach, but I felt like his time with us eventually ran thin.
Right. And the other one was, if we go back further to Michel Therrien, who is now just in the last couple of years is just decimating teams with the Canadians. Even when their goaltender Carey Price out, they're still finding ways to win. You know, and it's so sad to see that they let these two coaches go.
Players ran Tarian out of town, no doubt.
Exactly.
They gave up on him.
Right, and it was a bad place for him, and it's a shame that we lose a great coach like that can lead a team like he has the Canadians. Now they haven't per se, won.
Yeah,
but
they
they're a strong team every night they take the ice, and they are making decent playoff runs as well. But let's move down to the next point there. Do you think they see more effort on the ice from players like Kunitz and Malkin and Kessel when Crosby's out of the lineup?
Yeah, because guys know the captain's not there. You guys have to step up. It's like next man up without Sid being there. And I think it lit a fire under their asses, and they knew that, hey, we're 0-5, or excuse me, 0-4, and 1, and they just. I think it did make a difference, but hopefully when you get Sid back in there, they can still play at the same level that they played in this game.
And see, that's what I'm concerned about, is if he comes back into the lineup, are we going to see that energy disappear from those players?
I don't see why it should. That makes no sense.
I agree. I don't think it should disappear, but I'm concerned.
Increase.
Yeah, and I'm concerned that it'll disappear. And it's not to say it's maybe Crosby's fault, but it makes you wonder, why does that happen? Is it because they think that Crosby's just going to carry the team on his back or whatever it is?
Well, he should be able to, but right now he's just...
I think, honestly, Crosby's a good player, but I think Malkin's having the better season, honestly.
And they've done that in the past. Sid would have a good year, Malkin, Sid.
And what I honestly think is, let's be honest here. Crosby might not be having the best season right now, but Malkin is. I think Malkin deserves this season the first line spot. That's not to say Crosby's punished for underproducing. It's simply saying you put the hotter player on the ice more.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. What I'm not okay with is you would not take the C off Sid. I mean, that would just be idiotic. As Phil Bourque said on Mark Madden show, he said that is the dumbest thing that he's ever heard. And that's coming from Phil Bourque, a guy that I respect and has good hockey insight. So I just wanted to... anybody that is suggesting that, I'm sorry. I think that would not make a difference. It would just make things worse, I think.
Because now it's like the same thing as the coaching change. Now the leadership role's changing.
I think that would just create so much controversy and conflict, and it's just like, it's just something that was bothering me.
But I agree. But I think honestly, if Malkin's the hotter player right now, you play with the hot guy.
You can do that,
and you put him on the first line.
Sure.
You haven't. It's currently the way the season's going right now. It's not working, so change it. Mm-hmm. I understand that Crosby will probably be upset that he loses a couple minutes of ice, but you got to put the hotter player on the ice. You put Malkin and Kessel on the ice a little more.
Do you think that would light a fire under Sid's ass to be?
I think it would.
There you go. I
really think it would, because now you need to make a healthy competition between him and Malkin.
That's how it should be.
Right. You just can't let Crosby assume he is guaranteed top line spot, especially with a great secondary centerman like Malkin.
Mm-hmm.
I think if one's not playing well, the other one flip-flops until the other one shows he's better. It's healthy competition.
Yep.
Why not? You have two of the best players in the world. Mm-hmm. Make them compete against each other. In a fair manner, because they're at the same goal here. But make them compete for the top spot on the team.
Sure.
But as I've said before, and I'll say it again, Kunitz needs to get off the first line. But and it's not because he's not a good player. He's not a playmaker. He's a hitter now.
Yep.
You can just see him this season.
He's older.
He's older. He's turning into more of a physical player.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a first liner anymore. And like you said, you need to put some of this younger talent up there with Crosby.
Like Sprong.
Right. And see if some of that develops in the chemistry.
Give it a chance. What have you got to lose?
Right
now you're losing
because currently no one, no disrespect to any of the Penguins on the team, nobody has that strong chemistry with Crosby as they did Dupuis and Crosby had at one point. And it's a shame to see that he's out of the game, but we have to face the reality that he is gone from the ice. He won't leave the team probably, but he's no longer contributing on the ice. He's a great player.
Exceeded expectations,
For an undrafted player to produce like he did and play well as he did and hoist the cup with the team, he is a wonderful athlete.
He's got a family to go to now,
right? But he'll be sticking around. He said he would. I could see him either the coaching role or something within the next couple seasons.
He's a good voice in that locker room.
Right. Moving down, as we were saying, Malkin and Kessel. Finally, Kessel got that goalless streak snapped. He got 2 goals last night. 7 games. I think it was 7 or 9 games that he gone. Malkin consistently staying hot. He had a goal last night. 2 goals last night.
He needs to carry this team with.
Despite banging his knee, which
it was rough. Should have been a call.
That should have been
Five,
either a 5 and
10.
a 10 or a 5 and an ejection. It was just you can tell that was a knee-to-knee intentional.
Was that Jenner?
I think it was Jenner that did that hit, but I mean it's just we use instant replay, and I understand it's a new thing in the NHL, but we use instant replay for goals and offsides. Why can't we use it to assess a penalty? Not in the sense that you create a penalty, but let's say the ref called a penalty, and this is the same thing for if a player deserves a minor or a double minor. Look at the severity of the play and decide if he needs a further infraction on him. And I think if they would have reviewed this play had this rule existed, they would have assessed a 5 and a 10 if they could have. But they already had assigned him a 2. They weren't going to change it. But I honestly think that hit last night warranted a 5 and a 10. Because you've now taken a player off the ice, and I think it needs to be an eye for an eye. You take a player off, you go off with him. Mm-hmm. But despite that, Malkin came back. And we all know nothing is more fun to watch than a pissed off of Evgeny Malkin on the ice.
He was flying after that.
He goes out there on a mission after you get in his face or if you hit him, and he was just, the rest of the night he was shut down. Puck handling on the boards, scoring a goal. He was just hands down. He was just, it honestly looked like everybody had bricks in their skates. He was just going around everybody and he didn't care. Which does lead me to my last point, though, Dan. It was only one game.
It was.
And it was one of the worst teams in the NHL. So how much weight do you carry with this game?
It's good to see a win, but you're expected to beat teams like this if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins, because as we know, we have high expectations of making the playoffs, making a run for the Cup. And, it's like, it was a good win, but I'm more curious to see is how they do in their next game against a better team against Minnesota. Now, that'll be more of a test, and if they can beat them, all right, then we might be on to something. So
right. And
we'll take it a game at a time.
Right, and we'll get to that Minnesota game in a second, but let's take a look at the standings here in the Metropolitan Division. Dan, the Capitals are running away with it.
Complete domination.
9 points.
Racking up the wins.
9 points on the Islanders here, and the Islanders and Rangers both having good seasons this year, but they just cannot keep up with the Capitals if both of those teams have slowed down in the terms of points in their last couple games. The Devils... The Devils are the surpriser this year. The Devils are having a really good season. They started relatively slow, but they had picked up their pace. They had a nice couple-game winning streak and find themselves in the 4th spot. Philadelphia finds themselves in 5th place.
No Cup in 41 years, I believe.
So, but I don't think it's going to be 42, but that's where Philadelphia is hiding right now, and the Penguins find themselves right behind them with 2 points, trailing them with 35.
They're down there, but if they can get some wins, and hopefully the Devils and Flyers can lose, the Penguins can be right up there at number 4 or number 5.
Right, and
climb their way back up.
Yeah, and real quick, Carolina and Columbus round out the bottom 7 and 8 spot, and give Columbus credit for being as close as they are in the standings. They started 0 and 8 in the hole. Everybody else just kind of. It honestly looked like the race started and Columbus landed on their face at the gate, but managed to pull it back a little bit here. So give Columbus a little bit of credit. But like you said, Pittsburgh, that 6th place stat is a little bit deceiving considering the 2 teams ahead of us have both played one extra game, first of all. They've played an extra game, and they're only 2 points ahead of us.
Yep.
And if we actually pull out a win and get 17 wins, we automatically flip up into 4th because of the win column.
Right.
We have more wins.
Uh-huh.
So even though they have the overtime losses, those don't count as a win. So all in all, I mean, if you could say they picked a good time to slump, they picked a good time to slump because you even look at second place, they're only 8 points out of second. Let's not look at the Capitals
because... only a third of the season.
Yeah. We're only a third of the way through the season. There's still a little bit of concern here now because
you want to start getting it going.
You want to start getting some streaks rolling here because the other teams just aren't going to put the brakes on.
Right.
Washington's just not going to stop, but somebody needs to figure out how to beat them because 6 losses in 33 games, excluding those overtime losses, that is a great season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is or why nobody can beat them, but they are just every night in and out.
Good coach, good players, good systems. It all adds up. Good goalie.
You think maybe this is the year Ovechkin gets a cup?
They're definitely up there in the running.
So, but I wouldn't want to see it as a Penguins supporter, but But Ovechkin, once again having a great season. After the last couple seasons have been not I mean, he's been scoring, but his demeanor was something that was an issue.
Yep.
And his leadership role was, a problem. But I think the coaching there, when they benched him, straightened that out.
Sleep in late for a game.
I think there was something like that. But the coach the coach of the Capitals sat him down and said, "Look, you're not playing."
Hey, no.
And I think
come on, there's no.
And if you're gonna have that kind of attitude, I'll never forget. If you're gonna have that kind of attitude, though, real quick, you don't deserve to be playing on the ice. I don't care if he's still getting paid.
Sleep in? Come on.
Nothing upsets a player more
it's
than
your
when
job.
Right. Nothing upsets a player more when they can't play.
Yep.
The paycheck's the paycheck, but
they want to win.
They want to play and they want to win. But I'll never forget, it was the Capitals, I think 2 or 3 seasons ago, were out of the playoff picture.
Yeah, they were really bad.
And there was
Adam Oates as coach.
Yeah, there was a breakaway that Ovechkin could have easily covered the guy. He just stopped and let the guy go. And I will never forget watching that replay. It was so funny, and it just showed the what's the word I'm looking for? I guess maybe the arrogance of him, that he didn't care. Even, I mean, I understand you're out of the playoff picture, but you still got to care.
You do.
So, but I mean, this year they've straightened him out. That team is really straightened out well. They have a great record, and they're giving themselves some cushion here, and that's a big cushion. That is 9 points on second place only. That's a big cushion. I mean, technically they don't have any cushion in terms of the NHL as a whole because the Dallas Stars are playing just as well.
They are.
Dallas has the same record, just at a loss, but they have 52 points, and they're tied in the first place at the NHL. Real quick, though,
we're going to look ahead.
We're going to look ahead to the Dallas in a little bit, but let's look at the road game coming up for the Penguins on the 26th. As we said earlier, there is the holiday break, so the Penguins will be off for a few days. Right. They'll find themselves in Minnesota Saturday night. They travel Saturday morning.
It's an 8 p.m. start.
8 p.m. 8 p.m. start, 7 Minnesota time. Do you think that's going to hinder them, considering they have to travel that day?
Can they even get a practice in?
I don't know. I don't think they'll be able. They might be able to get a pregame skate at like 3 o'clock.
It's going to be tough.
I feel like they're not going to be able. They're gonna. If anything, it's going to be a real rough first period. And then the wheels will start turning. Hopefully, second and third.
Or it could get.
But the only concern I have is if that's the case, and let's say Minnesota puts up 2, maybe 3 in the first period, then we're in a hole. Because Minnesota's a really good offensive team.
This Penguins team, when they get in holes, for some reason they can't seem to get out of them.
No,
I've been to that game against Dallas. They lost, 5-1. Was that the game against Washington? They lost 4-1.
The Devils 4-0.
It's just like, and they're early, like that Dallas game I went to. They were down, 4-1 in the second. They could have came back.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of ice.
There's time.
Plenty of time.
But when they get, it just frustrates me.
Yeah, but they're not. You don't
want to see that happen.
They are not a very good come-from-behind team.
They did it against Montreal?
Yeah, they did it against Montreal, and technically they did it against Columbus because Columbus did get the first marker.
Right.
But that's my one concern I see is they travel the same day they play.
Yeah.
Usually teams that travel when they play struggle because it's hard to get your feet under. You have to have been moving around and flying and all that. And I understand they're off for 4 days, but I think that's gonna be a bit of adversity for them in the first period.
Get back in that mindset.
Yeah, I think that first period is gonna be a little slow. Hopefully the goaltending will be stellar, and hopefully Fleury will be back. If not, Murray will be in net. And Murray,
I've really been impressed with him.
Murray only 2 goals last night, looked pretty good.
Very good.
So hopefully we'll have some confidence in net either way. But
confidence.
Do you think they'll beat Minnesota?
I think they can. If they play the way that they did on Monday night. They play that way, and they score, and Malkin and Kessel, are flying, and you got Crosby back, hopefully, and possibly Letang. And I think they can win. If they don't, if they play the way that they played during that losing streak, it might be another loss.
Right, and I think if anything, it's either way. It'll probably be either a blowout for Minnesota.
Yep.
Or it'll be a one goal close win, 3-2, 4-3, 2-1. It's going to be a 1-goal game. It might even be an overtime game. But let me say this. If they need a win or an overtime loss, you can't be empty-handed now. They've given up too much ground in terms of points. I understand it's not a ton of ground, but they've given up enough.
Yep.
And these other teams in the NHL aren't going to put the brakes on. Like I said earlier, So you got to get some way, somehow get a point. I don't care if you lose in overtime in a shootout. Please just get a point. So hopefully they win. I'm hoping they win.
Fingers crossed.
Right, but Dan, we all know you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan.
They are the reigning, defending, undisputed, 3-time Stanley Cup champions of the world, the Chicago Blackhawks.
So Chicago currently has a record of 20-11-4.
Right.
44 points, find themselves in the second spot in the Central Division.
Right ahead of St. Louis.
Yep. And as for the last 3 games, they have all been wins for them. Edmonton, they won 4-0.
Mm-hmm.
A shootout victory against the Sabres 3-2. And an overtime win 4-3 in the Shark Tank. Dan, what do you think about those last 3 games?
Yeah, a bunch of different types of wins. You know, you got that shutout that was good for Crawford. You got the 3-2. They were actually able to come back from behind from a 2-1 deficit. Even though it was Buffalo, they were still able to come back, win in the shootout. Big win for Patrick Kane, hometown boy, able to get the win in the SO. And then a good 4-3 OT win with Jonathan Taves sealing the deal. So all in all, just 3 really good wins to help further build the confidence of this well-constructed Blackhawks team.
Do you think that point streak for Kane coming to an end had anything to do with maybe slowing down their momentum coming down the road? Do you see any effect with that, or do you think they're just rolling on through?
No, because they've had a pretty good month. I mean, they've only had 4 losses, and, you know, streaks come to an end, and, you know, it happened. You know, good for Kane, but he realized, hey, you got to keep going, and, you know, he'll be fine. I'm not worried about it at all, and I don't think he is either. So it was something nice that happened, but it's more important about winning and climbing in the standings, and I know they realize that. And Kane, his production hasn't slowed down, it seems, so they'll be fine. I'm not worried at all.
Right. Well, they do have a game. They'll be playing the Dallas Stars tonight. This is in about a half hour or so. This is going to be recorded Tuesday night, so any stats that are on here are from Tuesday. But playing the Dallas Stars, top in the West, tied for first overall in the NHL. You think they walk out with a win, or do you think they walk out as a loser? What do you think?
It could go either way. You know, these are 2 really good teams, and you got guys like Jamie Benn and Tyler Skin for Dallas, and you got Taves, Kane. You know, it's just going to be a battle of stars, no pun intended, and it could go either way, and it's going to be just a fun hockey game to watch, and I'd like to see Chicago pull out the win, and I know they have it in them too, but I could also see Dallas winning as well.
Yep, it's going to be a really big game tonight. Chicago and Dallas fighting for a win tonight on both sides. As for us, though, this is going to wrap it up for this edition of Penguins Pointers. Make sure you guys like and subscribe below. Dan, any last comments you want to make?
Just like to say thank you all for listening, and everybody have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Also, check out my YouTube channel, Daniel Geiza 412. I do wrestling videos on WWE, Monday Night Raw reviews for NXT, pay-per-view reviews, and yeah, it's just a channel that I've been doing for a couple months now. So if you're into professional wrestling, check out my channel. That's Daniel Geiza 412.
All good stuff, guys. I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a great holiday season, and go Pens.
Let's go Pens.